St. Louis, we've hit the fork in the road. In less than a month, we will either be an NFL city or we won't be. Some have suggested we're just not a football town.
What does that mean, Zach? There is no such thing as a bad football town. There's only bad teams and bad NFL owners.
December 13th, 1987. The Cardinals were playing their final game in St. Louis, a 26-23 win over the Giants.
Then people were just so worn out with the whole thing. They were basically saying, hey, just put your stuff in the truck and get out of here.
The moving vans pulled up in front of Busch Stadium this morning. 20 to 30 of them may be needed to finish off the move. A lone diehard fan showed up to say adios to some of the players. Bidwell says he's saddened by having to leave St. Louis, but says he must to make a living.
But at least Bill Bidwell gave St. Louis a chance to try to do something. You know, if you remember, at the time that the Cardinals left, he was trying to get a new stadium built. He wanted to stay in St. Louis. He just didn't think Busch Stadium was going to cut it for him.
Well, it's an emotional thing. We've lived in St. Louis 28 years.
He cried the day that the NFL owners approved his request to transfer to Phoenix. He actually cried. He had mixed feelings about it. I know some people say, well, he shouldn't have gone there, but it's not that simple.
Mayor Vincent Shamel is apparently seeking a consensus of opinion from area business and political leaders on which way to go on the issue of a lawsuit. If there's no support for the idea, he may not pursue it. Chuck Knight and Civic Progress are now directing their efforts to attracting an expansion franchise.
We met Stan Kroenke when he was announced as an investor, as the investor, replacing Jerry Clinton for an expansion franchise.
Stan? You got the ball. You got the ball.
And he was awkward at the podium, and when you met him, he was a, obviously, soft-spoken guy, but friendly enough. We knew he was from Columbia. We knew that he was uncomfortable with and new to microphones. Well, let's go back to 1990, when Jerry Clinton wanted to get an expansion franchise, and the state and the city approved the construction of the Edward Jones Dome, the expansion of the convention center. Well, the problem was Jerry Clinton owned the rights to the lease to the dome. And Jerry went to the league and put up that lease as collateral. And they said, no, we need guys with cash. And so he owned the lease, but didn't have the cash to own a team. Kroenke had the cash, but didn't have the lease. And the league actually gave St. Louis an extra 30 days to get its house in order.
But there's still one big problem for St. Louis's bid to get a team, a $260 million problem. You see, Jerry Clinton still owns 30% of the lease for the downtown Dome Stadium. Stan Kroenke's Gateway Group wants to buy him out. Jerry's willing to listen at the right price.
But Jerry Clinton, unfortunately, just would not give it up at that time.
It's my pleasure to announce that the membership has selected Jacksonville.
They abused us once, they took our team away even though we supported it, and we crawled back to them and we say, what do we need to do to get a team? And they say, well, build a stadium. And we build a stadium, and now they're beating us up again, and we're asking for it all over again.
I look back on that, and to me, it's just inconceivable that it happened. They had a team. The morning of the final announcement where they were going to give the team to St. Louis, and the NFL actually had stuff in the ballroom that had St. Louis Stallions, that had the logo and all that stuff. Because until the very end, the NFL assumed, okay, they'll find a way to settle their differences for the good of the city. This will never end in a standoff. And much to everyone's shock, it did.
When they didn't get an expansion team and had this stadium going up, Civic Progress put together Fans Inc., which was Dick Gephardt, Freeman Bosley Jr., and County Executive Westfall. And Fans Inc. hired Senator Eagleton and said, do whatever you need to do to get the Rams. The Rams were the only option left to put a team into the dome. And Civic Progress didn't want that white elephant sitting there.